Hi, this is Cindy.
And Michael.
And Bella's out of the camera frame, kind of falling asleep, kind of being woken up by us. But it's been a month.
It's been a super crazy busy month.
Crazy busy month. And we do have some updates coming. We do have a few people in the room so far. So hello to Carrie. Hi to your mom. Rustic Traditions. Hello, hello. Sandy, hello. Wait, it's Tina. That's funny. Yeah. That's Tina's husband.
I was saying that's your husband. Yeah. That's I recognized that for a minute, and then and then it all connected.
Yeah. Put two and two together. So I guess Tina, you can't get logged in on yours at the moment. And Diana at Justice Acres, hello. And while people are still entering, we'll kind of go over some updates of just what's been going on around here. Big discussions are compost, types of compost we've done and when we've used it.
Yeah, we're doing a hot compost for the first time in a while.
Yeah. And we'll do kind of a little bit. I think the Ask the Chef will probably be focused more on like the food shortages and what's going on there.
We're still cooking a lot. We're adapting a lot
to what you have available.
Yeah, we're planning and adapting and watching the market and talking to a lot of other people. We're also, the big thing that we're playing with is the market and how farmers markets are adjusting, because some are closed, some are opened, and many of them are sort of in between. And we're adjusting a lot of strategy with my business to accommodate feeding people. So yeah, and now, of course, we're looking at a meat shortage that wasn't just a potential a month ago. It became pretty possible, and then it became very real, and we're heading into that right now. And we've had very cheap meat for quite a few years, so it's going to be really shocking. Trend changes is probably the biggest thing in food. Massive forced trend change, which we're adjusting to very quickly.
So we'll get into that a little more. While people are still entering in, I'll give a little, of course, baby updates. Bella is still working on feeding herself, but picking up slippery things a little better and better. I seem to have found a picture of her in our set of combined pictures, which I thought was funny. It looks like she's taking a selfie with her stuffy.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened. I think she's sitting on my lap, I think, and I must have.
I think she was just reaching for the phone.
For the camera, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a few weeks ago, I'm guessing.
She likes looking at herself on the camera a lot. So, yeah. We did make you made a couple trips across the state over the last
I've been going every 2 weeks across the state. I've been to Chicago. Actually, every 3 days is like a week for me right now. There's just so much change and things happening.
Yeah.
Where a lot of people are sitting at home and kind of bored, and some people are staying at home or working from home and sort of stuck in a mundane of waiting. We're readjusting every 3 days, and it just feels like weeks and weeks go by. I don't even know how long we've been doing this because we've been so busy. But yeah, I was in Chicago or outside of Chicago trying to get equipment. I did get equipment on Thursday, and I'm still trying to put it together, get it fully hooked up so we can go live and run product hopefully tomorrow afternoon.
Rustic Traditions, yes, she is getting very big. By the way, she's 50th percentile across the board now.
A little over 6 months.
Yep. So height, weight, and head circumference, she's very close to 50th percentile.
Yeah, right in there.
Considering she started out with weight issues, she's bounced back, so we're good. The earlier in the month, I think this was probably the week after our last live show, or maybe a couple weeks after the last live show.
3 weeks ago.
Yeah, that's about right.
Saturday, 3 weeks ago.
So, considering the last live show was a month ago, so just a week or two after that, we went for a delivery run on the east side of the state and got to visit. Well, we were actually delivering pasta to a variety of places, including a couple homes, and one of the people who delivered was Homestead Dad. So I don't have him in a picture. If you follow us on Instagram, You'll see a little video with him
Yeah, he ran a
on
couple,
ours and on his.
and I think he might have ran on Facebook. Yeah, he ran a couple
Yep.
of things.
He
So
ran it on
yeah,
Facebook and Instagram, I want to
Instagram.
say.
Yep.
But this was Bella and I looking at the antics of their goats, um, but on their farm. So I didn't have too many pictures. We did a little video,
So
like
we're
I
going to
said.
talk about beans later. Yep, lots of good things to do with
Yeah.
beans. Bella was just over 16 pounds. I think she was 16 pounds 1 ounce.
Yep, 16 pounds, 1.6
Yeah,
ounces.
1.7, so almost one.
Yeah, so almost 2 ounces. So yes, she's more than doubled her birth weight. So she's good, definitely. So, and we're still traveling, although I'll go back to this picture. As you can see, we were wearing masks everywhere we went and keeping our distances and all that fun stuff that we're supposed to do. So
we're doing
yeah.
essential drop-offs to 4 farm stores.
Yeah.
We can talk about that. I think we have some, but we can talk about that later. But they're up 400 or 500% in sales. They are filling a major gap in feeding, and so we're part of that supply, and we're giving a large portion of our production over to the east side of the state, towards the Detroit area, where things are a lot harder hit. So we were doing drop-offs, and then we had some personal drop-offs to some friends and family that had ordered. So we gave everybody stuff at a distance, but we did have the opportunity to see Homestead Dad.
Yeah.
We had not been out to their property, so we kind of at a distance took a tour and said hello for a few minutes and hung out outside, and so that was pretty neat. He does really good videos. He does a lot of less at the moment. They've been kind of busy, but he did a lot of pop-up.
A lot of live shows.
He'll just go live middle of the day or different times and whatever they're doing.
A lot of times while he's milking cows in the morning.
Milking, or he's making different things. His son's been making picnic tables.
Yeah.
So they're a neat channel. They have 7 kids, I believe.
7. I think the baby.
Their baby
is
7, and
the baby is not 7 years old. The baby is number 7.
Number 7 is 6 months old.
4
months?
No. 7 months. 1 month older than Bella.
Yeah. And their oldest is about 16, somewhere in that range.
Definitely mid-teenage.
14, probably. So they have quite a spread, and they have a good mix of animals, and so they're pretty neat.
Are you keeping up with production, or has that been tough?
Production right now we've been broken down since
problems.
For a week and a half, I blew the bearings, which we had fixed, and we did our best job to get them fixed with the one guy in the country that knows these machines is in Chicago area.
Yep.
However, there's no guarantee, and we knew there may have been an issue, and we ran into that. So I'm actually waiting for that as a factory built. The bushings were actually factory built instead of us rebuilding them.
Mm-hmm.
I bought a second machine. That's why we ended up in Chicago. We decided it was a huge expense, but we decided to take everything out of our business account and buy a second one so we could produce faster, and 2, so that when we do maintenance or training people or other things, we have a second machine. So it actually makes sense. So it's kind of a pinch for the moment. But yes, we are selling practically everything we've made so we have shifted, like all the groceries and wholesalers, where restaurants have gone dead and grocery has gotten overloaded. We have to sell almost all dry product, which is causing some crunch. We have really given up a few cases that we couldn't make and deliver to wholesale accounts.
Yeah. Do you have enough? Tina's asking, do you have enough pasta for the internet order?
We do have, so the internet, we have updated our website. So part of our transition, Cindy's done a lot of work trying to flex into local drop-offs as well as pre-orders for market, because one of our markets is now a pre-order only, and the other one is a live shopping at a distance experience. So we have segmented into mail order, mail order or internet order.
Yeah. Free anywhere in the country.
Free shipping on $50 or more. Prices are slightly different. Local, because we don't have to absorb a lot of that shipping cost. We're offering $30 local drop-off in our immediate area. And then we're also doing these markets where people are pre-ordering. So we've segmented into 3 ways to get all that set.
Online. That's been a pain.
we are updating more. So before I never really kept an inventory online because I kept enough. If something went really short, we would take it out.
Yeah.
Now we're actually having to watch our numbers.
A lot more.
And we're trying to keep them up to date. So what is showing as open and available on the internet
should
be. I'm quite sure it's correct.
How far a drive is Detroit? Well, we don't go all the way to Detroit when we do the east side. We go to Ann Arbor area, which is about a half hour west of Detroit.
Yeah, half hour to 45 minutes, depending on where you're going.
Yeah, about a half hour. I used to
it's
make
about
that drive.
2.5 hours, depending on where we're going.
Yeah, to Ann Arbor is about 2 hours.
About 2 hours. I do a loop. I have a farm store, which is a kind of a natural grass based farm. We have 3 farm consignment stores that all they sell is things that would be eligible for a farmer's market, but they sell them on consignment so that they're available 7 days a week. And then they take a portion and then they return a portion back to us.
Tina, go ahead and order whatever you like on the webpage. The numbers show on there.
Yeah, everything's fine. Some things I have quite a bit. Some things you'll see a lot of things are out right now. Right now, long pasta, we're basically out. I have some egg pappardelle. We have a little bit of linguine, I think. We may have even taken that off the website.
I think
That's
might have taken that one off.
Yeah, if you want linguine, tell me, and I can probably send you a couple. But we're out of spaghetti completely. We're out of fettuccine completely. And if I get this second machine up, so we were wiring it today, and we think we have it wired correctly. It's a 3-phase, so we had to do a conversion. We don't have a 3-phase or 3-line transmission poles here, which is common unless you're out in an industrial area. So we were wiring to be able to accommodate running this machine. We did blow a fuse, and I was working with my dad trying to get it all wired remotely on the phone. We think we have it, but I need to go find this fuse hopefully tomorrow morning. And if I do that and hook up the water supply, which is not going to be a problem, I know how to do that, we will be running tomorrow afternoon, and we will be packing on Friday.
It says linguine, you have one.
I'm sure I have one, because so we're really focusing on short pasta right now. That's the end story. It's much faster for us to produce and package and space, and so we're maxing out our drying room, which is about 350 dry pounds a week, is all we can do. And we've been maxing that out for quite a few weeks. I have one person working with me making pasta 2 days a week. I'm so busy, I'm not making as much of the pasta. I'm watching and I'm training and I'm sorting out all kinds of problems and mail orders and business and supply, trying to keep supplies coming early. It's becoming a full-time job to just manage that the operation is running smooth. So we're making tons of dry product. We do have a new, we've done similar. We have a new panette.
Vegetable panette.
Which has spinach, tomato, and it's a cracked black pepper and garlic, as well as a plain. So it's a 4 panette blend. That's new. We have that in pretty good supply right now. Probably 40 or 50. We deliver throughout the continental United States. I am not sure we can deliver to our north friends in Canada, if that's the question. It is a dry product, so I don't think it's an export issue. I mean, like, you could drive it over the border. I don't know if we could mail order it.
I don't know what the pricing would be on it.
We have not explored
if you're in Canada and you want to see have us figure out what shipping prices might be and let you know, we could probably do that.
But anywhere in the 48, we haven't done Alaska or Hawaii or Puerto Rico or anything. But we do offer free shipping on a purchase of $50 or more. Typically that all balances out, so I pretty much cover shipping. Gets expensive, not because it's heavy, but because it's bulky. The boxes can add up. Like, I had to send some stuff to California. So
we deliver. I mean, if you're not close,
we'll deliver. We deliver 2-day U.S. mail. So
deliver 2-day U.S. mail. If you want a local drop off, that would have to be very local. If you want to go to the farmer's market, then we do that in the Kalamazoo and Texas Township.
Local drop-off is Kalamazoo, basically the west and south side. If it goes beyond towards the north and east side, we will
Like if you're
get out there at some point on a
Yeah.
day in this week, but we're really doing uh, just the Kalamazoo general area.
We're not doing our own drop-offs to like Grand
But
Rapids or
mail is
anything.
2 days. We
Yep.
we ship priority
Mhm.
because the prices are about the same. We find that's the best. So if once I have it packaged and it hits the mail, they don't take the mail out till 5 o'clock, no matter when I drop it off. I found out. In fact, in Michigan, someday it's one day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, they're
so no problems with that. It ships quite nicely. Pack it in there. We've had no complaints with heavy damage to it. So yeah, happy to do that if that's useful.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, anybody, this is we talk about all kinds of things here, so this is just part of what I do. It's pseudo sales, I guess, but we're not really heavily selling it here tonight. But if you ever do want to order, please make sure that we know that you're coming from Part-Time Permies.
Yeah.
We typically throw in at least an extra bag of pasta or one of our logo tote bags, or depending on the order, we always upgrade it if we know it's something like that. We'll make sure we give you a little extra bonus on it.
Consider you guys our online friends.
Yeah, so, So we want to give it out as a service, and we don't want to lose money, but we don't have to make a ton of money on it. We're happy to get you some good stuff.
Get you some goodies.
Yep.
Hello, ASL.
I was just fighting with getting a Silky in right before we went online. He didn't want to go into his.
Yeah, that's why we were a minute or so late, but you came in literally at like 8:59 from outside closing up the coop.
He's usually in earlier, and the other birds were all in. And
there weren't any predators in his coop, were there?
No, not.
You can tell in that coop.
I was. Gus was hissing at me.
Yeah.
And he was running away from me as I was moving slowly, and then Gus was hissing at him, and he was running away from Gus and running away from me, and then finally decided to go in his little mobile night thing. So he's okay. So.
Okay. I just listed the website on the chat, and it's also in the description, I believe, if you scroll down a little bit.
And we watched the Built on the Rock Homestead video this week.
We did.
The duck egg video.
Yeah. Yeah. I
know what Kiri looks like now. I'm not sure if I might have seen a video previously.
I think I have.
She looks like she has big bug eyes.
She lists.
She nice. Sunglasses on.
Nice sunglasses. Yes. She posts a lot of decent number of her videos on our site. Yeah.
I just.
I occasionally have time to watch videos. I don't watch that many videos at this point. But this time of year it makes it harder.
It popped up in my feed. It depends. A lot of stuff doesn't show up in the feed, so.
Yeah. Facebook. We were going to talk about compost.
Yeah, we're doing a whole ton of outdoor stuff right now.
So what we've done compost-wise, we've done a lot of things. The current project I just finished filling is in the greenhouse. This was actually meant to go and get going like in March as soon as we moved the chickens out of their winter coops and into their summer coops. But with the baby, I've been doing one wheelbarrow full at a time, not wheelbarrow, gorilla cart full at a time to get this over here. And I finally filled that thing all the way up this weekend. And it's definitely heating up. We're up to, let's see if I can find it. This was a little low. I don't think I got the temperature when it was up to 120, but right in that composting range. One thing I picked up from, who was it? Charles Dowding, is that he had his hot compost in the greenhouse, and he did that so he could have a surface to start seeds on that was heated passively. Now I do, you can see seed trays in front on this picture. I do have some seed trays sitting on heated mats, but I wanted more heated space, so that actually has worked, or hopefully will work pretty well. So I have seedlings right up on top of my compost as of today. Bella actually took a 2.5 hour nap and got all those planted. So so we're getting that. We've done other things with our compost here with our chicken run material. We've have like a cycle that we go through where we take the material from, and I have a video on this if you want to look it up from a year or two ago, but probably 2 years ago, where we take the deep bedding from inside the winter coops and we move it into the run for the next winter season. In the fall, we take that bedding from the run and we put it in the garden, and then it sits all winter in the garden, and then we just plant into it. Are we going to? Yeah, looks like we got a green light here. We're streaming from. We're back on. We're back on. We're green.
I'm eating
Oh
bread.
my goodness. Yeah, and he's eating freshly baked sourdough bread, which smells really good, but I haven't tried it yet. So I know there's a delay on this, so I'm going to see how we're doing. I have 2 windows running, by the way, guys, so that's why I'm juggling here. Can barely see the goose on the fireplace. Oh, the goose is actually on the table before the fireplace. You can see his head over your chair. Yeah. Okay, sorry guys. I don't know. We're bouncing around a little bit tonight, but it's back up and running, so we'll keep going.
Yeah, so we use the chicken compost as our primary compost. It's not extremely hot because it has so much wood chip in it.
Yeah, but when we did it from that rotation from the chicken coop to chicken run to garden, it also sat for basically about a full year with no chickens on it before we moved it to the garden. So it had time and 4 seasons to sit. Just making sure. The other thing we've done before is we've done our compost system in New York, where we had
traditional 2 or 3
bins
where you overhaul it once or twice.
Yeah.
And then you just pull from the bottom.
And that's the slow compost, mainly for vegetable material and such.
Try and get enough material. At that point, I was getting sometimes garbage bags of selected vegetable compost from the restaurants.
Yeah.
So I could get, like, we might be going into Easter or Mother's Day, and I could get a couple huge garbage bags full of melon peels or Thanksgiving trim, and so things that we didn't regularly bring through the house that fast. So I'd put on some grass clippings and put on some little twigs and branches and leaves and whatever else, but I was able to selectively add some nice stuff. Now, we couldn't control that was commercial commodity product, so I couldn't control any pesticide or herbicide, but it did give us more bulk, and it could also give us enough mass that we might be able to start a little bit of a hot compost.
And that worked really well for our small property. I mean, we had
400 square feet, I think, of garden.
I mean, that's a lot of square feet of garden on a postage stamp that we had.
Now we have 3,000. So.
But yeah, so that I think method works great for like a city garden. It did not stink. Most people think that compost stinks. That stuff didn't stink. It was all vegetable matter.
It never should unless I put a bunch of cooked chicken bones into this current to help heat it up. And they were, and we had made chicken stock that we're selling, and one of those batches, we took the cooked bones and we dumped it and covered it, and we did get a couple days. It started to settle down, but not surprised because that wasn't just even raw bone or flesh material. It was cooked, so it was actively and ready to break down as soon as it cooled and got inoculated. But yeah, generally compost, as most of us know, should smell earthy or have a pleasant to no smell.
Yeah. So 3 different ways to do composting. Some people also do composting in place. There's a book called Gaia's Garden, and I believe it's that book where he talks about, he does lasagna method raised beds a lot in this Hemingway book. And in fact, it's a book that we'll be giving away tonight if you guys are paying attention. If you guys stick around, paying attention, because we will have a quiz.
Is this school online now?
School online. No, we will be having a giveaway based on a question based on the show. So anyway, so Gaia's Garden is a good book for someone who has a small property, especially. It has a lot of ideas on how to do that. And he basically lasagnaed his compost directly in his raised beds. And I remember him talking about slipping like banana peels or whatever under the mulch that he had on top, and just he would put it directly in the garden bed that was growing stuff, and it would just
Well, and the
compost
other
in
thing we've
place.
done is we frequently put our chickens into our main garden in the fall. Like after the first couple of frosts and things are really burned down and we're done with
Yeah,
it, we'll put them in there until the hard winter. So they may be in there for a few weeks. They may be in there almost a month or two.
yeah,
And sometimes we put them back out there in the spring, depending on how. Like last year, we had a really slow start and a lot of cold, rainy weather, and they ended up out there for quite a while. This year, we've had a pretty more of a mild or cool and some sunny days. So we didn't, they went right from the winter coop
yeah,
into the tractor. So we also have compost in place when we're not going to
yeah,
grow immediately.
yep. So a lot of different ways to do your compost. I did want to ask you guys if any of you guys do compost on property and what styles you guys use, because there's so many different ways to do it. Um, I'd like, if this system works in the greenhouse, I'd like to try to see if I could get that going for the winter so it keeps
You
things
can keep a
warm.
constant. You got to clear
Yeah,
all that out so you have enough mass, but it does keep a constant compost and an
yeah,
available compost because it shouldn't get too frozen where
yeah,
you can get at it if you need something in the winter.
yeah. Carrie says she lets goats and chickens
Yep.
into the garden for cleanup,
It's
and
free food. Let them get in there and eat everything we can't get out. Yep.
clean it up and fertilize it at the same time. And Tina, wait, you switched. When did you
I
switch?
saw that. I noticed.
Tina says she uses used to puree my vegetable scraps and dig a hole in the raised beds. Yeah,
Well, the pureeing's probably an over
it makes it
exercising,
break
but
down
it does break down
faster.
faster.
Yeah, it does.
Depends on how much you like cleaning it up, but
You
yeah.
could probably just throw it in there too in the raised beds like Hemingway does. Um, but yeah, no, there's so
We have
many different
orange
ways.
peels and onion skins and banana peels and avocado pits and shells all over our yard by the end of the summer because those are the things the chickens don't eat.
Yeah, right.
They're still fine compost, but yeah, sometimes there's some weird stuff floating
They
around in
just
the backyard.
break down in our yard.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
do fine.
Um, so Carrie says that she throws bags and bags of leaves. Yes, that's another
Hmm.
thing we do. Rabbit poop, goat poop, goat pooped on hay in the raised bed garden. That was another thing we've done is had all our fall leaves and put them directly in the garden and let them break down right in the
Yeah.
garden. Um, and then especially if you could get chickens in there early spring, they can help break it down a little faster too, or after you put your leaves
So
in the
one thing that
fall.
happened this year in the last couple of weeks, so we didn't. So typically we blow most of the leaves out of the way in our yard, and then we've moved them into the garden bed.
We didn't this year.
Last year we blew them around a bunch of our trees where we're losing grass due to lack of light. So we created leafy beds, which are going to be
Yeah.
more of a forest environment. That worked pretty good. We plan to do that with a lot of the leaves this year.
Mhm.
However, between weather and Bella and work, things were pretty busy. We got a little bit of a leaf cleanup, and then we got some really early freezes, and everybody got caught.
Yeah.
So they pretty much stayed there until 3 weeks ago. I got the mower out, and I usually do a scalping where I take the old mower blade and drop it down low, like 2 inches or something, inch and a half, about as low as I can safely go. And I'll just grind everything up and scalp it so that I can put in our forage blend, which I can talk about. We did that this week.
Yeah.
So I went and scalped the front. Now there was a little more leaf material because we didn't blow any of it in bags.
Right.
It was I scalped it up and chopped up those leaves, but I still had some heavy spots of leaves, but it did shred it nicely. I went back the following week and cut it on an angle one more time in that front heavy leaf area. We have some field grass or some pasture grass as well as some other grasses in there that were planted a couple years ago, and they poked up a little bit 2 weeks ago, and that's why I cut again because I felt like there was just too much leaf. This week they really took off,
Yeah.
and we probably won't cut that likely for the rest of the
For most of the
year.
season, yeah.
So we actually just mulched everything in place, and now the bugs and the worms have
Break it
nice
down.
little stuff, and they can do the rest. But it's not so compacted
Yeah.
that it's going to crowd out any of the grasses or plants that we want to come through it. So yeah, so that's all we did. Didn't move it at all. Coffee
So
grounds are great. Quiz on coffee grounds: are they brown manure or green manure?
brown material, green material for your compost, because for that matter, you do want a mix of brown and green in your compost. Brown is
High carbon,
high carbon material. Your green material is high
or
nitrogen.
nitrogen. Yep.
Um, it does not necessarily follow the color of the plant. So
So coffee grounds are actually green material
yeah,
because they haven't dried all the way out and broken down. The beans are green, even though they're roasted. It actually counts as green material. I do drink coffee. Cindy doesn't, but I do put my coffee grounds every day into our compost bucket.
I put tea in the chicken bucket,
And
they don't eat
I
it.
put the filter in there too.
Yeah.
So that goes out to the chickens. So the tea bag and the coffee filter and the coffee are pure compost that the birds don't eat, but we do know that they're good compost, and
Yeah.
what remains of the caffeine may or may
Tina
not be
says
good.
green if wet.
Yes, green if wet, that's a good rule.
Yeah. Rebel Canner said that they do a single pile, also dig a trench where they want the next garden spot and fill that with, and then cover them in plant. That's a good idea as well.
Yeah.
Carrie's goat loves orange peels. The chickens don't seem to eat those. No citrus. Carrie also had to get leaves from town. Michigan Mike, hello. They use a wood pallet bin.
We're doing wood pallets on that compost.
And compost coffee grounds and leaves and clippings and veg scraps and eggshells and etc. We're doing a wood pallet bin. I'm going to go back to that picture here in the greenhouse, but we're doing hot compost with chicken bedding basically. It's pretty much all chicken bedding with a little bit of layers of
little straw,
little bit of straw to get a little aeration in the between later layers in there, because our bedding is pine shavings, which compacts a little bit more than the straw does.
Yeah, and doesn't have a ton of nutrients. So we did put those cooked chicken backs, as I had a 40-pound case, actually about 60 pounds of chicken bones going into stock. So after the stock was finished, we fed the extra vegetable to the chickens, figured that was good for them, and with the poultry fat and stuff, and it was cooked, and then we threw the cooled bones into the compost. Now, we don't typically compost meat because of wildlife, mostly possums and coyotes and such. We don't need to bring them any closer to us, so we don't put meat scrap in. However, this is in the greenhouse and it was cooked, and it was mostly bones, not meat, so put it in. The advantage of that is you get mineral. You get a higher content of mineral. So it doesn't have the blood like blood meal and stuff, but it has the bones and the calcium and the magnesium and the phosphorus and all that stuff that comes out of the bones. So while you can do vegan mulch and that, veganic agriculture, and some people want no animal inputs or even manure, given the choice, there's actually some really nice benefits if you can use bones or use manure in addition to your vegetable scrap.
It might smell a little more.
That shouldn't smell if you've strawed and wood chipped it and leafed it properly. It should compost without a strong smell.
Michigan Mite said they had to move their bin in the beginning of 2007 because it's not aware of how close it was to the massive walnut trees. Yeah, walnut trees root systems make jugalone, I want to say it's called, a chemical that it emits through the roots. It emits more on years that they are stressed than years they are not. So that chemical inhibits growth of a number of different things. It doesn't inhibit growth of everything. Like you could probably plant raspberries below your walnut tree and they'll do fine, but they're forest edge plants anyway. But it does inhibit the growth of a lot of grasses and a lot of like prairie type plants, which many of your brassicas and stuff are. So you don't want that getting into your compost. How far it emits, I've read that it emits up to 80 feet from the tree, but I've also...
It's gotta be a big tree.
Yeah.
We've got some like 1 foot across, and I guarantee you ours is not emitting that far.
No, and well, I've also read that it depends on the stress level of the year. So on years it's not stressed, it's not emitting as much. So it lets things grow closer to it when it's not stressed. But if it's a stressful year on it, it will emit more. like if there's a drought or something like that, so it keeps things from growing very close.
And our water table is not very far down, so any established tree is going to be directly into the water table. And it's heavily composted because some of the chickens run in that area.
Yeah.
So I'm going to guess our walnut tree isn't.
It's probably happy.
Yeah, it's probably happy unless it has some heavy pest stress show up some year. It's fine.
And it's the only walnut tree, so it's not like it's in a big walnut forest, which would probably attract a lot of pests to it. The nice thing about having multiple species is you're going to get fewer pests jumping from the species it likes to the next tree over because it's a different species. That's also why doing a lot of very plantings with a lot of different plants, like in your gardens, instead of doing everything in one place of one type, mix it up, because you're going to get less. If one plant gets hit by pests, it's less likely to jump to all of them of that type if they're not all right next to each other. So trying to mix it up a little bit is helpful as well.
Hey, you have raspberry around the walnuts,
Yeah. The raspberries love the walnuts. Raspberries, blackberries, all those.
We don't mind our one walnut tree. I like black walnuts. We seem so busy in the fall that we rarely get to
hulling them.
To hull them. But I actually like black walnuts.
You may know Chino.
Yeah,
we have a video on that.
So there's so having a few black walnuts on property. And I think we only have one. We're fine with it. In fact, I wouldn't mind to have a second one. But yeah, that's too many can get to be a hassle.
You say the roots can go out as far as the tree is tall. I've heard the roots go out as wide as the branches go out.
Yeah, they sometimes go about as deep.
Yeah. But I think they could go further than that. It just is kind of average.
Good average.
So they probably go out about as far as the drip line of the tree branches.
So yeah, you got the garden. We're a little bit late on seed starts. I've been pretty busy. I was going to do a bunch of stuff today. I did the mulching, reset the yard with a little bit of mowing. I had to pull off the blades last week. I had a loose blade. They're in pretty bad shape. Which I knew because I'd scalped with them and they'd been used all last year. Of course, once you pull the deck off, I don't have an easy release deck. It's just like a Cub Cadet style garden tractor. I sharpened the blades, but I'm like, these are pretty beat up, but I didn't have any more blades. I'd ordered 6 and I'd used small, so I ordered 9 more, so I need 3 at a time. So I've got new blades, but unfortunately I was supposed to pull the deck off today, which takes a little work, and reload new blades for the season. Didn't get to that due to the other stuff.
Yeah.
But did you get the picture of the mobile repair unit?
I do have pictures of the mobile repair.
That was about 3 weeks ago.
So, oh my gosh, that's another thing.
This was another big job that's been waiting for a year or more.
So this is our chicken coop. Our main summer coop is on a trailer. It's basically a snowmobile flatbed
trailer. Yep.
And the tires have been flat for a long time.
One tire was de-rimmed for quite a while. I'd pumped them up some, and then one somehow went down, and I don't think we pumped it up. So they both have ended up de-rimmed, especially over the last year.
Yeah.
But one's been going for most of 2 years. So I kept saying I was going to look for. We have a couple trailer repair places. Try and get some non-roadworthy tires. At first was to get them to rim some new tires.
Hi, Lisa.
Then I was concerned that that they wouldn't be able to easily re-rim them. So I was like, well, maybe I'll get some not roadworthy old trailer tires from one of these guys cheap to put on there. And then I finally decided to just switch them. So I found, instead of a wider road tire, I found a skinnier, lighter weight one, because we're not putting all the heavy weight of what would have originally been on there. And they were much, much cheaper.
Yeah, so, chickens don't weigh as much as snowmobiles do.
No. So I ended up like, well, I got the right lug nut pattern now. The lug nuts had not been pulled off in who knows how long on this abandoned trailer.
So you had this whole...
I knew it was going to be a pain.
Mobile setup.
We had to move the chickens first. So we got the trailer up and running. And then the next move, we moved them in the morning. And then I had to get everything together when the weather wasn't too bad and there wasn't chicken poop all over.
Yeah.
And set it up to
do this.
But I had to bring out pneumatic wrenches. I had to bring out the compressor. I had to bring out a jack. I had to bring out
everything in the trailer.
Lifts. Of course, on a trailer that's not well attached, you have to support it on 2 side so it doesn't tip over, and then jack it up, and then
Oh, that I'll go back to
yeah. So there was a whole
that picture.
yep.
Yeah.
So I had to pull out all this equipment, and luckily I had it all. It's all kind of been hanging out, and
And
so
that's the new tire under there.
that is a new tire on there. Yep.
Yep. So this is final ready to roll on the new
I
narrower
had to turn the
tires.
compressor all the way up. We just have a normal compressor to 120 pounds from the air wrench and wait for it to pump all the way up because I couldn't break the bolts free. They were so rusted, and I really worked even with the air gun and got them off. And then, of course, I did grease them, which I greased the lug nuts, and I turned my torque down so I did not re-torque them at 125 pounds. I don't think they'll ever come off again. I pumped them up as high as they should go, and we are now sitting on a new set of proper tires. So that's 2 years in the making.
Yeah. And now we just need to replace the tires on our Gorilla cart because, which you got a set for to do, because are running on a flat on that too.
That yeah, it was getting dragged around. Those are tubes, so I bought some styrofoamy some Run Flat 2 tires to replace the front.
Run Flat or the
well, they're solid.
The solid tires,
solid.
yeah.
So we will see how they do. I still have 2 aired up tires that we'll leave in the back, and I guess if we run into problems and we like these solid tires, we'll at some point replace them. Tires are expensive. All these tires and rims are surprisingly expensive, as most of you probably figured out. And getting the right one that fits on the right thing is always a little work.
There's another thing we got about a week and a half ago, which I will have a video coming out probably this week on, are these little guys.
Yes. We have 2 sets of baby chicks running around right now.
We have silky chicks, which I think we had last time we were live. They were only about a week old.
These are all purchased. We have not had a broody set right now to put our own.
Well, we have no silky hen to go broody.
We gave eggs to friends who wanted to. They have established goat farm and cheese. They have a USDA cheese production plant on a small farm property, but they didn't have chickens, and we gave them 2 dozen eggs, and I think they were up around 16 or 17 hatched midweek. And so they have some of our mixed breed because they were a little hesitant about it, and we're like, oh, if you can do goats for professionally making cheese, I think you could figure out how. I guess the health department says they give them a hard time about poultry and goats or poultry and livestock. Yeah, and I'm like, you can have them so far removed. I mean, how stupid. Yeah, anyway. I mean, they're not talking about a massive farm. They're talking about having a dozen egg layers. Yeah. So and they have ducks too.
These are not egg layers.
No, these are meat chicks.
Yep, and we got 30 of them. One wasn't doing so well, which is not a bad proportion, you know. You have
one within a couple hours was not looking good.
Yeah. And then just one a few days, like about a week after that or something, that wasn't looking good.
It was laying on its side and I got it to water, and I was like, this thing is not gonna I don't know what's wrong, but it's not going to fix itself.
But the rest are looking really healthy, lively, in and out of that coop.
One looks small. One looks like I really rented, but the rest.
Yeah, one looks small.
But it's getting around. It's not being picked on. It's eating, so it's.
Yeah, and they're eating like crazy already.
They're eating as much as our main flock.
Yeah. 28 chicks that are meat chicks are now eating, as much as
a gallon of dry.
15 adult hens.
And our geese.
With the geese in there.
So actually, if you put that picture up, this is like a 1 gallon plus. I don't know, is it pet food or pet kitty litter or something?
Oh, the container that's
container is we fill that up actually to the line. You can see. Yeah. That's sort of our usual flock daily soak. Yeah. They are now eating that much in dry.
For the chicks.
On the chicks on daily, and we haven't gone to a soak because it's too messy in there right now, but pretty soon we're going to try and move them to a fermented soak. Yeah. Because that's supposed to save you 15%. You gain 15% in nutrition because of the easier digestibility than giving them dry ground grain.
We also have things blooming now. These are peach blossoms from our peach tree that we planted last year.
That was the Costco $16 or $14 fruit trees that looked like they were pretty good. Usually they're about $35 for that size. So we bought 4 different things. They have all survived. last
Yeah,
year. It's
yeah.
crazy weather, and they seem to have settled in. And
The problem is, basically, we are going to get, well, maybe not snow, but
we could
we did get the snow a few weeks ago, but we are getting down into the 20s this week.
2 nights of 27,
20s
28 somewhere. They're
and a lot
thinking
of
for a
30s.
low.
Yeah,
Yep.
so we're gonna definitely get
Not
some
just a frost. That's a hard
hard
freeze.
freeze.
So
Yeah.
pears are blooming right now, and if we don't watch out, peaches, and we're gonna run if it
No,
doesn't get.
we would be pulling those after they're done. We won't let that tree fruit yet because I mean, we're letting
Yeah,
it.
we're not worried about it, but the commercial growers
Yeah.
right around us could be in for a tough one if we get these. Well, we are going to get these hard freezes.
Yep. What kind of peach tree is it? Do you remember?
Um,
I don't remember.
it's a yellow. I think kind of it's a there. These were commercials, so there's the.
It was the one that releases the pit, but I don't remember
Yeah, I made sure it
what
was
kind
cling.
it
I
was.
got it cling free
Yeah.
because it's really hard to deal with ones that aren't cling free.
It's in the
Um,
90s in Texas. Well, it was in the
we're in the
70s.
70s the last 2 days. It was actually
Yeah.
really nice. I went to market. So first market of the year is the first week in May.
That's
It's a
gorgeous.
whole mess of its own modified. You got to pre-order. So we would have seen 5 to 6 thousand people there if it was
Any
a
normal
regular
year.
market. Last year was similar, blue sky and warm. This was even warmer. I think it was 60 by, it was like noticeably warm, and usually we're freezing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is market opener, but it didn't feel like market opening weekend because everything was so jumbled around and markets are doing all these different procedures.
Yep. And oh my gosh, we had so much to go over that our live show is probably going to go long here, but I did want to get to this, which is I mentioned earlier that we're going to do another giveaway this week. We're only doing live shows once a month, so we'll be doing a giveaway once a month, I
At
guess.
least for the summer while we're
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
get some stuff grown.
So our choice in the giveaway is either this Gaia's Garden book, which is a great permaculture book for I forget his first name, written by Hemingway. He's passed at this point, but this book has so many ideas in there on how to set up a permaculture smaller property that I think is great. So this is a book that I've used or I've read in the
This
past.
is a classic, or this is
Mm-hmm.
it's the top 10 you should have it if you're
Yeah.
growing, if you're even halfway serious about growing and growing in some natural
And
format.
yeah.
This is probably on your shelf or should be useful.
Yeah.
So
we'll give away that book. I was actually looking into the prices of the Intro to Permaculture, but that was too expensive for our giveaway.
that's a big book.
That is a huge book, but that one, maybe if we hit 10,000 subscribers, we'll do a big giveaway like that. But Gaia's Garden is a great book that we've used often. You can either get that or 2 bags of pasta. We always do our pasta giveaways.
Yep.
The rules of the game are that we'll ask one question, and the first person who gets the correct answer in our chat, which is not always the same order, if you guys are all answering very similar time, it might look different on your chat because yours will jump ahead of others. So it's the one that comes up first in our chat that is the correct answer will win this book. And so I do have a question set. I was just actually, they have a Belle of Georgia. Tina has a Belle of Georgia. Mm-hmm. Too. Okay. Also have pawpaw fruit on their tree. Awesome.
Wow.
Can't wait for that. We only have one tree right now. Anyway.
Yeah, you're way ahead of us because nothing's even leafed out.
No. So
the azalea got half burned out in a frost a week or so ago. It's all brown.
Flowering now,
yeah, but it's all brown on the top.
It's going to get burned out again.
It frosted across the top.
Anyway, so our question of the day is, which Homestead channel did we go deliver pasta to this month? We had more Instagram pictures up on that one.
Yeah.
We mentioned it at the beginning of the show tonight. Um, Rebel can't get a pawpaw
Put
to
your
grow. Keep
pawpaws
planting.
on a forest edge or light just barely into a moderate growth forest. Put them on a slope leading down to water.
Or
Uh,
heavily mulch them
or
in
heavily
leaves.
mulched where there's, but make sure the soil is fairly drained. So on a sandier soil, given the choice, than a clayey soil. If they are very picky and don't planting them from seed, you have to take the
That's
fruit
hard.
right away. You only have an hour or two. So
Yeah.
even a start should potentially grow under those
They
conditions,
have to
but
have if you're going from seeds, they have to stay moist. They have to have
yeah,
the cold winter and before they'll grow
Michigan
again.
Mike is the winner, I think.
Yeah. Oh no. Rebel Canner said
Oh,
before. Rebel
you're
Canners
right.
is one before Michigan Mike said it. Sorry. Rebel
That was so
Canners.
close. It was
Yes.
all right.
Rebel Canners got
You're
it
right.
first on our feed. Man, those did come in at almost the same time there, within a minute. Um, and they're both Michigan people.
Yeah,
So they should probably be watching
fully
Homestead
following.
Dad.
Yep.
Homestead Dad, like I said earlier, has a great channel. You guys should check him out.
He does some woodworking projects, some knife making,
Does
and
a lot of
some
things.
welding, and they've got the animals, and
Yeah, yeah. And he lives on the east side of the state.
yeah.
So, and they're at, well, I don't know if it's happening this year. I'd have to check with the Pratts, but they've been at
Well,
the Hewitt
we're
Nanny.
gonna assume it's happening until
Yeah, they were still deciding, trying to figure out what was going on, but of course, who knows?
we heard. I heard rumor that campgrounds and camps in Michigan are going to be authorized to open potentially in mid-June. I just,
We'll
but I
see.
don't know where all that lands. Of course,
Yeah,
everything's changing.
everything's changing. And a big get together, I don't know if they'll allow that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll
We'll see.
we'll see.
That's end of
We're gonna
July.
assume it's happening until we hear otherwise.
Yeah. So Homestead Dad was we went and delivered pasta. Anybody on the east side of the state who knows and is connected to Homestead Dad, he did actually say he would take orders for when we make our deliveries to
For
the east side
people
of the
that
state
are his friends or whatever that are immediately in
in their
their
area
area, take a pre.
and their
You can
farm.
pre-order on our local delivery
Yeah,
if you're in his area and
connected to
or
him.
closely connected with him, and then
Yeah.
he can help because he does some drop-offs of some of his products. So
So, Rebel Canners, you'll have to let us know whether or not you want the book, Gaia's Garden, or two pastas. And if you do decide you want two pastas, you could go on the webpage and pick your two, or you can just tell Mike to pick two for you. Either way. And
regardless, we need your mailing
we need your
address
mailing address. So, don't put it here.
unless you want everybody to mail you stuff.
Email it to me or send a private message through Facebook. Either one will work. Our email is parttimepermies, all one word, at gmail.com. So congratulations.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so that is.
Yeah. So as far as the pawpaws, you can try and start them from seed. You need to keep them refrigerated for a number of weeks from the fruit in moist soil so they get the cold weather. Then you need to get them into a start. That process is the hardest process. You can't keep them exposed to air more than an hour. You lose a lot of viability when you initially collect them. So you're much better taking them from a plant start like Tina did, and then planting them into a suitable environment. Um, Oikos Tree Farm, which is close to us,
Mhm.
does sell pawpaw starts in a
Yep.
number of different sizes. We are starting to see starts showing up in the fall, especially with some of the farmers market
Oh
people.
yeah, yeah.
They're actually a number of
There's
people
a
are selling
number
them now.
of permaculture people at our farmers
Oikos
market.
is really backed up though on product. We
Yeah,
ordered about, I had a gift certificate. I ordered about 30 things
yeah.
like 3 weeks ago. I haven't heard a thing from them. We even
I
offered
think it was
to,
only a couple weeks ago, but yeah.
2.5 to 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I had offered to either go pick them up from their shop, driveway, or they could drop them off here because we're that close,
Mhm.
incidentally. And I was told that they would mail them out. And I'm like, fine, I was just trying to save you money. You could kind of nonchalantly throw them in the driveway. And because I can't imagine what the mailing portion costs. However, he's so backed up It said they were back to. I don't know when this stuff's coming. I was just hoping it would come in early spring.
Rebel Canner said they have an Oikos wish
Yeah,
list.
we all
So
have
many
it.
good
We all
things.
have an Oikos wish list.
Yes, we do.
Even with I try and get 2 or 3 or 5 items of things so that you get a chance that they're actually going to take.
Yeah.
But I think in total, I don't know how many different items we got there, but I think we ended up with 30 different plants.
Yeah.
So we're waiting to both hesitant to try and find space and get them in quickly, but we're also excited. We've got some berries and crawling stuff, and we've got a whole bunch of fruit and nut tree, and just other hopefully
Food
really
forest.
cool stuff. Yeah, it's more food forest
Food
stuff.
forest, here we come.
Long-term projects.
Which also means we really need to take down some locusts.
I was hoping that all this COVID was going to get slow enough that I was going to go out there and cut some trees down, and it hasn't even begun to slow.
No, your business is probably ramped up in a different way.
We're busier trying to convert and get those processes done. We're only probably similar, and sales are slightly off, but not too far off. So we're well positioned, and we don't have a storefront that we're trying to keep filled and a high cost lease. So those things are helping us.
Carrie, yes, Bella is asleep
right here
on my lap.
Totally passed out.
She is completely passed out. She's like spread eagled arms and laying down on a boppy on my lap. So yeah, she was exhausted. She had one nap today, a good nap. She hardly had a nap yesterday. I think she tries to fight sleep when I'm here. I do find. Now we'll do a few minutes in food. So we do usually have our Ask the Chef segment.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of planned on talking about some of the food securities and what do you do with, what you have.
So the context of this is we know. So I've been following Quarantine Cooking a little bit, which is a cool Instagram site or Facebook site.
It's Facebook, yeah.
And that's even hard to follow. Got so much going on, but we know lots of people are at home cooking. We know lots of sourdough bread and other breads and baking is happening. We know some people are eating healthier and some people are eating less healthy or eating more and then not doing much. Some people are drinking a lot.
Oh, no.
There's a lot of different things, but we also know that people have time. So where the biggest problem for home cooking is like making bread, it's not hard and it doesn't take that long. It's going through the steps and being available to catch the steps to convert it and get it in the oven.
Which Curie actually had a nice post in her Facebook group about how to harvest yeast, propagate yeast. Natural yeast.
Yeah, and so you're keeping a high yeast bloom and a low bacteria lacto, so that it's more of a true yeast versus a blended sourdough.
Yeast is everywhere.
It is, and that's actually I was hearing
which is funny because there's a shortage in the stores.
Everybody's like, "Oh, we're running out of yeast," and of course, all the microbiologists are just laughing and going,
"It's everywhere."
It's everywhere. In fact, if you get it in your cell cultures, it's one of the hardest things is to remove yeast from a viable cell culture because it's one of the fastest growing microorganisms.
Yeah, a lab
and
thing.
So to outcompete it and get it to go away and keep whatever you want, you can capture yeast off of anything that has carbohydrates or sugar, any type of fruit. As long as it hasn't been treated with sulfides or things to retard yeast, you can attract natural yeast. And then this video was just a way to propagate it and grow it up so that you get a more pure form. It's still a wild yeast, so you don't know if it's going to be really bubbly or taste really good or ferment well, because there's different yeasts provide a whole range of flavor profiles and physical profiles, but you can easily, in fact, the easiest way is really sugary fruits, so like dehydrated fruits. They're talking Middle East, a lot of times they use dates. Problem with that is most of them are treated with sulfides and yeast inhibitors. The simplest way is grapes because grapes have glucose in them.
It's already on the flour, right? Rebel Canner said.
Yeah, it's on and it is on the flour. It's on everything. And so you just have to propagate it. But because grapes have glucose and yeast likes glucose better than fructose, just organic grapes of any type, that little white film that you see is a combination of dust and yeast bloom. Yeah. So that's an instantaneous, unless you need a specific strain of yeast, to mimic a beer or mimic a wine variety or style. Um, Yeast is already there. It'll ferment itself. It'll make bread if you give it its time. So,
Yeah.
but it was a neat video for getting a more pure strain of propagating yeast.
That video got suggested to her on YouTube, which is strange because haven't looked for
So
anything
people,
similar.
yeah, so people are making a ton of bread, and the we know that bread in a form, a lean bread which has no fat, eggs, or dairy added to it. It's basically flour and water and a pinch of salt. When it breaks down through yeast fermentation and the lactobacillus, it goes from a dessert that digests very fast, like white bread, to a very complex bread, especially if you're using a bunch of whole grains, and it breaks down slower. It still has carbohydrates, but it has a little more fat and protein, so you're using a whole wheat or rye or blends of flours. And so it's a whole different animal, and it's a whole different nutrient. So people would eat a kilogram, 2 pounds or more of bread um, a day historically, both in Greek and Roman times, and then in colonial times, people would be rationed, and they say it's so great that they get at least to, we're told to eat at least 2 pounds of bread, and literally lived on that. Well, it's not Wonder Bread that, it's like eating
not eating pure sugar.
yeah, eating a sugar roll. Yes, we should have other things, but when you ration bread, you're probably also getting roots and maybe some form of small amounts of meat. So the combination of roots and a sourdough whole grain bread actually is pretty nutritious. It made people strong and able to do hard work, like miners and other people. And so we kind of lost track of what the role of bread is. But people are making more bread when it's comfort food. But if you're home, you can go through that and I go through that process of fermentation and possibly a proofing or a shaping and then cooking and get it in instead of scrambling, coming home from work and not being home. Same thing with cooking all kinds of other things, braises, stews. Of course, you can crock pot and Instapot, but people are spending more time cooking instead of 30 minutes or less. Some people are taking that 2 or 3 hours and cooking traditional meals. So it's pretty neat to see a huge trend change, both people who know how to do these things and want to get better or want to do them, and then people that have never really cooked are discovering how to cook and discovering how to make things and discovering the food cost on really good food when made at home. Actually, the ingredients aren't that expensive.
Kiri has a sun oven.
Oh, did you? Oh, I think you mentioned that.
Yeah.
We had a regular oven. I cracked the glass on that. Had to repair it.
Yeah,
had to buy a new
one.
That may have been in the last month. Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
I cracked the insulated protective glass on
us in appliances right now.
On our crap. It was a crappy, nothing special oven, but I've never cracked that glass.
Yeah.
So we kind of had to do a quick get that out. We got a slightly better oven in, and it's changed the crust on the bread a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's making they both make good bread.
And what's this? This was dinner of what was in the.
That was last night. So this is a total leftover for those that follow Frugal Family Food. This was truly Frugal Family Food. It was tortillas that I had purchased, corn tortillas. So it's an enchiladas, sort of American style enchiladas. So I had corn tortillas in the fridge. I had some roasted or braised chicken from the crock pot from another meal. I had roasted some pork shoulder, and I just cut some of that up. So I mixed the pork and the chicken together. I had some sauce. It was like a tomato vodka. No, it was a tomato sauce of sorts. And so I added a bunch of cumin and ancho and such, and just kind of made it into a quick gringo enchilada sauce and stirred a little bit of that into the meat. Wrapped up the tortillas, threw them in a casserole, threw the rest of the sauce over the top, baked it off for 45 minutes. Had cheese, cheddar cheese in the freezer from a project, shredded cheese. Need room in the freezer. I got all kinds of projects. I'm out of freezer room.
Yeah.
So I pulled that out.
That is another thing that's becoming hard to find.
Chest freezers are and we got a chicken plucker this week too.
Yes, we did.
Oh, sold a rototiller we don't use because we
don't till. Yeah.
And turned it into a chicken plucker, which we're going to need in 8 weeks or less.
Yeah.
Badly. So, yeah. So we took through the cheese, which was a leftover. I had it on hand.
Tina says goulash.
And I had bought a container of roasted hatch chili salsa, which I don't usually buy because it's so expensive, but hatch chilies are really good. just a massive Costco container for, $8. It was like 40 ounces.
And I've been putting on like
And
everything.
Sarah's like, this is kind of hot. I'm like, yeah, but it's just hot enough. You can still eat big spoonfuls of it. It's salt, lime juice, and roasted hatch chili. That's
I
it.
need it on something. I can eat it on something, but when I tried it on its own, it was
It's
a little
good.
hot.
It's really good. So after it came out and put it on the plate, I'm like, well, this really needs some chilies thrown on it. So that is a total on hand leftover quarantine cooking enchilada. I haven't made an enchilada style thing in years, probably just doing other stuff, but it was good.
Yeah. Yeah, lots of cultures have a lot of throw together type meals of what you have on
Well, and
hand.
that's the thing when you're talking about poverty, you have less food, or sometimes you have time, sometimes you don't have food budget and you don't have time, but sometimes you have people at home where there's always a kettle boiling or there's always an oven running. And so culturally, we have sometimes money, sometimes not money, and none of us ever have any time. So we're losing our traditions of being able to cook. Um, so yeah, so that's I'm having a hard time sometimes still having enough time to cook, although there's other days. And I am around the house a lot, so I have an oven in my shop, so sometimes I can cook down there. Sometimes I'll crock pot things and watch things through my day. Like I'm baking bread twice a week,
Yeah.
2 to 3 loaves each time, usually giving away 1 or 2 loaves. Um,
I've been eating that more and more as my bread
we're eating a
source.
lot more bread, but we're eating a really good bread. I don't
Yeah.
think it's, don't eat too much bread, but I think this is a
Yeah.
slightly different scenario. Um, we're not grinding our own wheat or anything like that, but we're using mostly rye and whole wheat in it, and of course the sourdough. So, yeah, so I'm making the loaves of bread through my workday and finishing them off. So that's working pretty well.
You guys should check out Carrie's playlist for sun oven baking if you want to check
That's
out the
something I've
sun
never
oven.
done. I've always been
No,
interested. I just yeah, we don't get
haven't.
any sun in Michigan.
We
We've had
do.
2 days out of our 13 days this week.
We
13
had
days a
sun
year
all
of
weekend.
pure sun.
We had sun all weekend in spring,
So
so usually we get rain this time of year. Um, Need to glue glass back on the sun oven, then a non-windy day which is rare right now, need
okay.
to make enchiladas. Yeah.
Yeah, so the enchiladas were kind of a nice something different. I had so much cheese, I kind of over cheesed them
It
because it was just
was good though.
Gringo yellow American or yellow cheddar because that was what I had.
That's what was
But
in the
this was
fridge.
a no sort of a no cost pure leftover. It was really good.
Yeah.
So we did that. Things that are going on. So markets have said we have our main market decided to only be a pre-order, so they have to call or email all the vendors. There was only about 15 or 20 vendors that
Oh, I didn't know that.
participated. So that really,
Rye flour was hard to find before this due to a bad crop last year.
yes, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know it was a bad crop. I just
I
knew it
have
was hard to
been
find.
ordering 10-pound bags of organic rye flour through our natural health food stores because that's actually the easiest way. And I can't buy it wholesale any cheaper. It's the same. It's not cheap. It's expensive, but
Yeah.
but 10 pounds of organic rye flour goes quite a ways. And then I buy unbleached bread flour by the 50-pound bag. I use that for my ramen noodles as part of my ramen noodle blend. So I have that around anyways, and it's much cheaper than rye flour. And then I have a nice medium grind um, whole wheat that I like. So I blend those intermittently on top of our rye sourdough start. But yeah, so the market. So we're looking at food access, and the market was like on hold to do June. It's now opening for food vendors only. No eating food, no fun, no games, no entertainment. And they're trying to crowd control that, but they finally decided to do this pre-order until then because a lot of us were saying, "Hey, you are the leaders of local food, and push that it's
Food access.
food access and it's local and it's local community and it's local economy and it's fair and it does all these things and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, just close it down." And because people might get sick, but people are still running into the grocery store. Myers looked like a disaster when I was in there 2 or 3 weeks ago. Other stores looked a little better. It's like, well, we can't solve the problems, but we can do our little part. So they are now open. Um, And so we participate in that, and I feel like they need to open up a little bit more sort of regular shopping, vending. But we are seeing a total, um, and we're kind of looking at, well, is there going to be some meat interruptions? Or are there going to be other key interruptions? We now know. I went to Costco this week. Quickly, they had no chicken. They had no where they had tons of pork and no chicken and some beef. Now they have a moderate amount of high-end cuts of beef because the high-end purveyors can't sell it to anybody. So they're cutting ribeyes and stuff that if you can afford it, it's great. But
Yeah.
very no ground meat, no chicken, no pork. They had some ribs and they had pork shoulder cut like 3/4 of an inch or an inch across cut, 7-bone cut. So it's like just as crudely cut as possible, just zipping it through a saw.
Yeah.
Which you could kind of grill or barbecue. It's tasty, but and that was all they had. And so they had some bratwurst.
Is that what we had in our enchilada?
No, we had my. Okay. It was the same cut pork shoulder. It was boneless pork shoulder, but that had been smoked, smoke roasted. So we are seeing already that chicken is a 10-week cycle, so that recovers faster. But as a mainstay, pork is a 6-month cycle roughly. We know that 50% of pork is not being processed, and beef is about a 1.5-year cycle. And we know that beef prices are rock bottom, and I saw articles saying a lot less beef is being processed than people would than they're saying. And I'm interacting with some small scale meat farmers regularly. I just read a big article from my meat guys in New York were talking about how they're coping with being in not running 3 crews in Hunts Point in New York City. So if one crew gets sick, they report on every different shifts and different days. They segmented everybody all the way up through management. So as soon as one crew gets sick, they quarantine for 14 days and the next 2 crews take over. And if they're okay, they return to work. And so they have non-crossing paths so they can keep going, but they don't have business.
Yeah.
So we are definitely looking at a first time in a long time, a true meat interruption that will take time to recover. But I think the prices are going to go sky high because we've killed off a lot of the feeder cattle. Will have, cattle and hogs especially. A lot of the starter chicks and eggs have also been destroyed. I know somebody who works at a poultry friend. His brother works at a poultry plant, and as of about 2 or 3 weeks ago, they were taking out young hatchlings for like the big commercial programs because they had no inputs because there was no outputs.
Yeah.
So those are all going to interrupt into a lot of cost issues for the farmers, and I think we're going to see very, very high meat prices, maybe double, maybe even more, but I'm hoping not more than double. We've been very cheap recently for quite a while.
Allows local mom and pop butchers to supply the farmers markets, local markets. Yeah, and that's one thing is if you know your farmers and you know who's producing locally, you can order. Most of our
local ones are they're pretty busy. They're hard to get a slot in general, but they are already taking it as much as they can. We have some medium-sized processors. They're still up and running, but the farmers that have product are going to be challenged this season to get it through processing so they can actually sell it.
Bill Curie says her brother hasn't been home in months. Company terrified switching crews on the ships. Someone might bring the virus on board. Yeah, that's true, especially in
once you're on a ship, you almost want to stay on it and work longer, stay out there.
You know who else I haven't watched many videos in general recently, but I should really check in on Rachel 1870s Homestead because Todd works for, is it a power company?
He works for a power plant, yes.
So I'm not sure what they're doing with him if he's been
some places were quarantining at work because he's an essential and they're a major power plant.
Yeah.
So they clearly have to have a staff that's capable. Yeah. So
Rebel Canner says when everyone was hoarding toilet papers, she bought 4 egg layers.
Yeah.
Well, there's a hard time getting chicks now too. So we were lucky to get our meat chicks.
We got 30 on somebody had given up 100, and we took 30.
Yeah.
Feed is continuing to be a few bags at a time. Months. And yeah, we got finding chicken pluckers is getting tight. We did get one.
We did get one.
We got one this week. Um, Coolers and refrigerator and deep freezers are becoming extremely tight. There's almost none available because people are starting to put away more products or being a little more careful with what they have on hand. So I do see some long-term trend changes.
13 Moons is hoping to find local pork and a freezer. The freezers are hard to come by right now too.
I just found a freezer, a decent sized chest freezer on Sears. We had some cheaper ones through Menards a day ago, and
and they're sold
they're
out.
gone. I actually need another chest freezer, work related. I'm overloaded because we're doing some soups and sauces, and I'm overloaded. Plus, we have these chickens coming in, so
Should go back to Rebel
yeah,
Canner's
yeah. The
question.
question, ramen noodles. We do make ramen noodles. We do a sort of a hybrid extruded noodle, but it is a traditional alkaline or pH treated
But you only have it
noodle.
available fresh.
Fresh or fresh
Yeah.
frozen. We don't ship it. It does not dry well. It is not fried like a commercial noodle. So it's a traditional like ramen shop noodle.
It's real like Japanese style ramen, not.
It's a hybrid of a so that is something which transports fine in a cooler, but you have to catch at a market. And hold it frozen. We actually cook it from frozen, but it does come out really nice. I have some restaurants that use them. 2 restaurants, and in fact, they're my 2 restaurants. They're still open.
That they're doing to go.
That are doing to go are both buying ramen noodles. So that's. But yes. So.
Oh, did you see the comment above about the Prime Act?
No, I missed that.
They're up there. There it is. Heard there will be a Prime Act that we should encourage our congressman to back.
I don't know much about the Prime Act, but yes.
If you put a brief explanation in the chat, that would be
we'll look
helpful.
it up. Yeah. So I do see some longer term interruptions. So the more that you're buying local or regional, or growing it yourself, or working with people that are cooperatively growing some of your meat or fish and sharing or trading it around, there'll be less issues. So people in the country are actually going to have less issues than people in the city that are dependent on going to the store every couple of days and have a small refrigerator. And so, so we're kind of moving a little more towards keeping things on hand. Whereas Carrie was asking about beans. Yeah, I bought a 20-pound bag of commercial beans just because we were low on them and they're cheap. Although beans had a really bad year, wet and moldy. So beans are somewhat scarce and very high price compared to usual, interestingly, but they're out there. And I love white beans, navy beans are probably among my favorite. Although pinto beans cook up really creamy, and black beans are extremely creamy and mild. You can use black beans to make brownies, by the way. They make a really nice brownie, among other things. So we have been thinking about doing hogs, probably next year, having a couple of hogs. We were going to teach that hog butchery class in the early winter when I was too busy, and then possibly in March as everything happened and I was still busy. So on-farm butchering. So one thing is you could probably go to a big processor, even though that may not be as premium of pork as you would like. We should
do some more videos of breakdowns and stuff, maybe.
I don't have any pork to
I know
break
we don't
down,
have one right
now. That's
not
going to happen if I don't
if
I don't have anything here.
At some point. We're going to get new freezers. We're going to get more meat eventually.
Yeah. So
high food forest permaculture.
Yeah, so we would but so we were like, well, you could probably go to your local farms and get cheap, especially the big places. It's a drop in the bucket, but they'll probably almost give away hogs. The problem is we don't have pens or places to handle the initial process at this point.
We need to build
or the time. But for people that actually have the on property and want a save a hog and get a cheap price on it and can process it beginning to end, which is not a whole lot of people. And again, if you're doing all that, you probably have a desire for a little fancier foraged hog. But yeah, I thought about, geez, can I bring something on? Like, wow, we don't have time, or I can't corral. I don't have a suitable trailer to pick up a live animal. So
get a few infrastructure things to figure out here first.
But yeah, there's a lot of things going on. It's so I think we'll see some of that readjust, but I think there's going to be a lot of waves of. I also think the restart of restaurants is going to go very hard because a lot of the manufacturers may be bulking up if they're doing well, or they may be running low. But I think we're going to have waves of inefficiency of starting and stopping and trying to reload restaurants, and restaurants not being busy enough, and restaurants that are busy trying to get food but not, because everybody's trying to take on food, not being able to get it. I think there's going to be a lot of challenges for quite a few months on the back end of a restart process. So we'll see.
Yeah. So Sleepy Baby just woke up. Um,
I don't tell the kids the brownies have beans.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you can make it with applesauce and black beans, and I've had a black bean recipe that we taught as part of a nutritional cooking class that was really quite good. I thought the sugar level was a little low on it. It had a lot of nice dark chocolate in it, but
can always rent a trailer.
Yeah, I'm trying to do the clean out on that one when they want it back.
Or put them in a SUV. I've seen that too.
Yeah, we're not putting a feeder hog or a feedlot hog in the back of a vehicle.
The pilot.
No.
No, piglets.
That you can put in dog crate. You could bring feeder piglets onto the property. As far as bringing the 200-pounders off, I'm not sure about that. So yeah, and we turned a few of our garden beds. A few of them are planted. We're a little behind on that still. Was hoping to get out there today, but got bogged down on wiring projects.
And it's going to be really cold next week.
So next week's going to be a hold. In fact, going out to the hardware store, a number of the farms were out and were either plowing, most were disking, and some were even planting, and they were doing a hurry up with this good weather, trying to get their first shot of fields planted.
Cold weather fields, I'm assuming.
Well, yeah, they're going to have to be frost tolerant for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, she is super sleepy. She's been sleeping the entire show on my lap. So she has been going to bed a little bit earlier, and falling asleep a little bit better, sleeping.
No pigs without a cement fortress.
Yeah,
we've heard really good things about electric poultry and hog nuts.
Hog nuts.
And some people are just using a wire at like 16 inches.
You have to train them to it though, so you really have to get them trained as piglets to the electric nets.
Yeah. So that, because of where we're set up, and we have neighbors. If they got out, we have a big woods area that encompasses all kinds of neighbors. If they got back there, I don't know if we'd ever find them again.
We might not.
I think we just have pigs running around that somebody'd be upset about.
Yeah, wild hogs. Huh?
I think what we would probably do is run a wire in a larger portion of the back lot as a safety, and then we would run our segmented, somewhat movable netting with where we would intend them to stay, but then have a wire that would be a backup, because we just really couldn't afford to have them doing a walkabout.
Yeah, getting the hogs a butcher would be a challenge, except that we would probably do it
ourselves. We do that on so once I had them on property and I had a pen where we could handle them, we would take them down in the pen, and then I do have a non-roadworthy trailer that I could transport them to where property. We could, and we would do the class on, either do a class or do a private butchering, all on property, which cuts down the cost and increases the labor and time you need to put in and some of the equipment. But I have all the grinders. Got to buy a lot of ice. Ice is expensive. That's the one that's a big expense. But other than that, it's labor, so you can keep the stress down on the hog. You don't have to move it all around, and I could do a whole breakdown on property. So that would be the plan. We would never send out to a butcher because I do my own cuts and my own sausage and processing.
Yep. And hopefully, if we get to be able to meet in groups again, we can do some classes. Otherwise, maybe we could do some private online classes or something. Do a me behind the camera live show. Like all the way through or something like that. I don't know.
Fish are here. I guess it's trout. I'm guessing trout season. Good to see you. Yep. Food Forest. Yeah.
Well, no, Vancouver area. Salmon?
Could be salmon, but it's still trout.
Is it still? Okay.
I'm not sure if salmon. It could be some salmon. Yeah, so we are going to probably, we do want to host a class. I was just talking with another local chef. They have a big, farm farm restaurant and a local hog farmer, and we're kind of kicking around ideas for a big fall pig fest that might involve a training class as well as a dinner, a formal dinner. I was talking. Jason was like, "Let's do it,"
Oh
and
my gosh,
so
yeah.
so we might actually do a train. We might do a teaching, a culling or killing process, scald, scrape, eviscerate. We may opt people in that want to do that. We may then also invite people that want to learn the cutting process but don't want to handle the live process, like you got a hanging, chilled hog from market or from the butcher. And then I was talking with the chef who'd like to hang out, and he's the new chef at a farm to table restaurant that I service.
Yeah.
And he's like, we could do a massive, nose to tail meal, which could obviously include the people that were part of any part of the class, but could also be opened up to other people in the community. We have a local farm that raises some really nice hogs. And so we could actually put the three of those together into a
Yeah.
significant event into that evening, and that would involve all of us, and people could kind of opt in where they wanted to. So that was just kicked around last week.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so that's an interesting way. And it also gets, my labor would be in this case very much involved in the processing portion, but that would allow a whole other crew to do a finishing of some other hogs.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Walleye are running in Michigan.
Oh, are they? Oh,
In
good.
Michigan. That's Michigan. Food Force is not in Michigan.
Yeah, I've been buying walleye on occasion. We have a local market vendor who goes to the UP, and
Upper Peninsula for those of you guys non-Michiganians.
yeah, and he buys mostly from Indian reservations, so they can harvest a little more around the seasons, and so it's all really clean, cold water walleye and perch and coho salmon, and it's good. They do a nice job freezing down the fillets, and I've never had a bad one from him. So yeah, the walleye, we just had walleye about a week and a half ago. I had some in the freezer.
Yep. Okay, guys.
Oh, you have a picture of that.
I do, but I didn't import it for the show.
I saw you flipping through it.
I did. I debated, but I decided to put the most recent meal. We had a ton of pictures for a month. I had to pick which ones.
Cooking a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
not every night for sure.
So we will be again reminding you that this is a once a month live show. We probably will let ourselves go run over our hour. It's an hour and a half now here, because there's a lot that goes on in a full month, especially this time of year, which is why we have to do once a month. But our next one will be the first Sunday of June.
Oh, and the last thing we didn't talk about is put 50 pounds of forage seed in the backyard this week.
Oh yeah, we did that too.
So we've been doing that for 3 years now, where we seed our entire backyard. We're scattering about 20 different grain radish yummies, and hope as much
brassicas
and sunflower seeds to build the soil, the fertility of the soil, and again give chickens the ability to eat at all the different stages. So we just put 50 pounds, and I have another 25 pounds that we can follow up seed for a little bit behind them. So we will have all kinds of cool forageable stuff in our back grass that we don't mow.
We could give an update on that next month, because we'll have that growing this whole month.
Yep.
And then
free chicken
we have
food.
our chicken stuff. Yeah, exactly. Free chicken food. Well,
I pay for the grain, but
almost free. You pay for the grain, it grows, it creates more food than what the grain by itself would have done.
But it composts, and it diversifies, so we get better soil, and we feed the chickens, so it works out pretty well.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it gets through the chicken system and feeds the soil
again.
So
yes,
multiple feeding to the soil. So yeah, we'll give you updates on that in June. First Sunday in June at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I gotta go to bed. I gotta work tomorrow. But
I gotta work tomorrow.
Yes, we both gotta work tomorrow. So we will catch up with you guys then. I will be putting out some videos, trying to do that weekly. I do have one that's coming out this week that I need to finish up. So we'll see you.
Hope everybody's doing well.
Yeah,
So,
hope
yep.
stay healthy, you guys. Stay healthy. Get outside, but not near too near other people, and eat well. Start growing your own food if you don't already, but I think a lot of you guys do. Let us know next month what you're starting to grow. We're really just at the very beginning of our growing season, so
A long ways to go.
we'll
Yep.
we'll let you know what we're getting in the ground over the next month. Have a good night and a good month, and stay healthy. Take care.
Yep. Good night.